Hey, what's going on, guys? So today's video is going to be about cameras. I've seen a lot of camera comparisons out there, and I don't feel that they give webcams the fairest of shots. I've been streaming with a webcam for about a year and a half now. I started with the C920, went up to the BRIO, and just this week I decided to make the jump all the way to the DSLR. But I wanted to do a comparison video because I feel like I've got my webcams dialed in, and they do a decent job at showing how good a webcam can actually look. So I want to do a quick breakdown, show you guys the difference between the C920, the BRIO, and a DSLR. Let's hop in. All right, before we go too far, I'm gonna give you guys a breakdown of the room and kind of how these things are hooked up and how these things are set up. So the room itself, in terms of lighting, because lighting is obviously super important, I've got four Philips Hue LED recessed bulbs in the ceiling. I've got some LED strips around the desk, some more LED strips in the corner, some more LED strips on that wall, and then I've got a small lamp here on the desk as well, you know, like a soft glow. I'm a little bit front lit because I don't like, there's no key lights, ring lights, nothing crazy like that. It's a very simple room when it comes to lighting. So that's kind of what we're working with. I've got the DSLR is going to be set up through Camlink 4K from Elgato, and then the C920 is going to be plugged into the computer via USB. There is a USB extension on it, a powered extension, so there's no loss of quality. And then the BRIO is actually plugged in direct. If you extend, there can be actually significant signal loss. So if you guys are using a USB extension, I check it without the extension and with the extension to make sure you're not degrading your signal. One more bit. I'm recording OBS 1920 by 1080 and using the NVENC Encoder with an absolutely absurd bitrate. So there shouldn't be any degradation. That's out of the way. So let's start with the C920. So this is the C920. This is at 1080p, 30 FPS. I like this camera. My biggest gripe, I think, with this camera is a little difficult to get color balance. Like, as you can tell right now, I'm very warm. This is actually turned down a bit. I have noticed with this camera, if you do set manual brightness amount, manual gain amount, you can actually really dive bomb the frame rate of this camera. And so be careful with how much you adjust the exposure. Now the BRIO is 4K camera. At this point, this is running at 1080p 60. 1080p 60 is what we've got here. And it was an elevation of clarity. I'm going to switch back and forth between the two. You can see here on the wall, all right, there's the Astroneer tag, okay? There's more clarity at distance, for sure, with the BRIO. And then even, you know, up close, it's not too bad. You do get some of it. This is a little blurry on the C920. On the BRIO, it's a lot more clear. I'm leaving all of the cameras at the same resolution, just so they're on the same playing field. Now, my big gripe about the BRIO, at times, it would just start kind of zooming in and out all on its own, even though it was set off and it was disabled. It was really irritating because I just wanted to stay in focus, and I would notice that it would just kind of kick in very little bit. There is auto adjustment past what I'm manually setting it to. So there's that. For the C920 and for the BRIO, I do run lower brightness, higher contrast. I usually bump the saturation 1 or 2 values. So standard's 128. I usually go up to 130 at the most. And then the sharpness I do bring up on both webcams because it does give just a clearer image. I'll bring that up to somewhere between 130 and 140. White balances, I typically will actually leave that to auto, and I'll show you why here in just a moment. And then again, backlight comp I leave off, and my gains are variable depending on the lighting situation in the room. And that's for the webcams. And then finally is the Sony. And so I went over to the Sony a5100. It was on sale for Black Friday for under 400 bucks, I think it was, from 600. It was a good deal. And the main reason for this was obviously the clarity, much more clear, but I wanted the depth of field. I wanted everything in the background to have a little bit of blur. I wanted myself to be in focus. Setting it up was pretty easy, wasn't too bad. The Camlink made it super simple as well, and it was just an immediate huge quality bump. It is definitely, in my opinion, worth it. That being said, you know, this is like an entry-level setup, right? And so by the time you get cabling, the HDMI cable, which you probably have laying around your house, You need a cam link, a power pack, right? So you can just plug your camera in, changing your battery out midstream. That's lame, right? All that stuff together, even when the stuff is on sale, you're still looking like 550, 600 bucks, right? And so it's an investment for sure. Whereas you can get a C920 for like 35 or 40 bucks on sale. My BRIO on sale for 140, 130. Is this worth the additional 300-400 bucks? This is something I actually battled with myself for a very long time. Was it worth going in and picking up the DSLR to get the better quality? Now, one of the reasons why I decided to make the big jump to the DSLR is because when I stream, it is more so like this. And so I actually keep the stream room decently dark. I usually have my lights on teal. Could get even worse and I go purple. But this is where, depending on the camera, these guys really start to struggle. So you can see now, one, I'm more grainy. But two, just how it highlights, you know, just some of the things. And so again, this is still super clear, super crisp. This is starting to struggle. There's more noise in the picture. You can kind of feel that. The C920, you can see there's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of feedback. On the Sony, it's just it's more even. It's more even distribution of color, right? The Sony, it just kind of handles it. Everything on Sony is on manual. I have set everything manual. Nothing is automatic with this camera anymore. And kind of regardless of the setting that I seem to throw it at, it seems to do really, really well. I mean, I can even take it, and if I wanted to, I can let the room change a bunch of different colors just over and over and over again, and the picture stays pretty clear. Whereas if I were to hop to, say, the C920, it starts to kind of, you know, you can tell my colors are going back and forth. Depending on the frequency of this and what I have going on in the background, like if this thing, like, because I have the PC as well as also set up lights to do all sorts of different crazy things. And sometimes the webcams, they really kind of like wig out and they stress because they're not meant for such odd environments, if you will, right? I'm rambling. I'm going way longer than I wanted to, but I honestly think if I would have run my stream room like this all the time, I probably would have just stuck with the BRIO, to be completely honest with you, because this looks fine. It's a good high quality signal when you got decent light in the room. I'm sure if I had key lights, we're gonna edit that. Key lights, rim lights, whatever it is you guys use when you like light in your face, I'm sure this camera would look a lot better. But as soon as I start super dark mode, that's when it really kind of fell on its face, and that's when the DSLR it just comes in handy. All in all, to wrap things up, because I'm going on way too long, that's my take. So if you have a well-lit room, something like a BRIO would probably do you fine. C920 would do you great. I think they're great webcams. If you really want the depth of field and the crispiness, obviously the DSLR is where you're going to have to be at. If you guys have any questions about this stuff, by the way, like, subscribe, comment. But you can also find me live on Twitch 4 or 5 days a week, twitch.tv/Cardo. Come on by, drop some questions in the chat, see the camera in action. I think I covered all. I hope I covered it all. This was hella long. Yeah. Peace out, dudes. Later.